Guys, welcome back to my channel. If I sound sick, I'm really sorry. I have like the worst allergies today, but I wanted to tell a few stories because something happened yesterday and it reminded me of them. So today I'm going to be talking about a few of my ghost stories that I've actually experienced. And I'm going to be talking about 3 of those stories today. So if you guys are interested in actually listening and hearing them, then keep on watching. So for this first story, I was about 7 or 8 years old, and at the time I was living in a different country. I wasn't living here in the US, and my sister and we had 2 separate bedrooms. So she had her small room, and then I had my big room since I was the older one. And I had just barely started to try and fall asleep, and I usually would have like my little like nightlight thing, and then I would be reading. I was such a nerd. I would be reading from like this science book that had like facts about rocks and stuff, and I had just finished reading, and I had put my book down and I was going to sleep, and out of nowhere I started hearing like little sounds, like little like scratching noises, and like I opened my eyes, I was looking around and I couldn't see anything, and I was just like, is there somebody here like in the house, or is it just like random noises? So I tried to ignore it, and then later on, probably about like 5 minutes later, I ended up hearing it again and I got scared, so I went to my sister's room. So I ended up going into her room, and she was sleeping with her head like at the top of the bed. So when I got in her bed, because I was scared, I had my head at the bottom of her bed, so her feet were like facing like this. And so I'm finally trying to go to sleep, and I'm lying down, and out of nowhere I feel like poking like right here, like on my side. I felt like 3 like little taps like poking, and I thought it was my sister like messing around with me, like touching me with like her foot, like to be annoying. I was like, hey, stop it, like I'm trying to go to sleep. And then it stopped, so then I was like, okay. I tried going to sleep again, and then I feel it again, and I was like, hey, stop it, like it's not funny, I'm not messing around, I'm trying to sleep. And then finally the 3rd time I feel it again, I lift up the covers and I sit up. I'm like, Jacqueline, stop. And like I lift up the blanket like to like kick her feet away, and her feet weren't even near me. She was like curled up in like a little ball. So then I started getting really scared, and I put the covers over my head, and I was like, oh no. Like, I don't know why I thought that was gonna save me, but it's just what I did in the moment. And then for some reason, I don't know why I was listening to myself, but I felt like the urge to like bring it down. So like I ended up pulling it down, and I see like this lady with like black curly hair, and she was real pale with like dark brown eyes, and she was just leaning over me like that. I screamed at the top of my lungs, crying, screaming. And then my sister's dad ended up coming in, and he's like, what's wrong, like who's in the house, whatever. And then I was just crying, trying to explain what had happened, and he didn't believe me, but he's like, okay, like come to the room, and then you can go to sleep. So I end up going to sleep in their room, and I calmed down and everything was fine. And then the next day in the morning, they asked me, they're like, well, what did you see, like who was in the room? I described the lady. I was like, it's some lady with black curly hair and brown eyes, and she's real pale. And then he was like, and my sister's dad was like, oh, that's your sister's aunt. She ended up, she died when she was 16. And I heard a noise. Like, yeah, like she died when she was 16. And I was like, okay, like that doesn't mean like I want to see her. And then he started laughing. He was like, no, like she was probably just watching over you, just trying to see like who you are or whatever. And ever since that day, like I never saw it again. The second story is a little more recent. It was probably about a year ago. And at the time I was living with my boyfriend, who I'm with currently, but we were living with his mom in an apartment. And that apartment, it was a real beautiful apartment. Like there was nice floors, and like the walls were real pretty, and like it was a lot bigger than what I was used to, so it was real nice. But for some reason I always just felt like this sounds like so cheesy, like no one's gonna believe me, but like I just felt like real dark energy there. And one day my boyfriend, his mom was at work, and my boyfriend was in our room, and he was in like watching YouTube or something, or playing a video game on his phone. And I was in the living room with our dog, and we were watching a ghost show, which that isn't like the smartest thing to do, but we were watching a ghost show, and he was sitting on my lap, and I was watching the TV. And the way that it was set up was like the living room was like right here, and then okay, the front door that you enter right here, the living room's here, and then it's connected to like the dining room and the kitchen, so you can see the kitchen from where you're sitting at in the living room. And there's like that high like countertop where the sink is and everything. So earlier that day I had gotten this bowl to give my dog some water, and I had put it on like the furthest like in towards like the counter so that it wouldn't fall off or no one would bump into it and it would fall over. So it was just chilling there. And I was watching the show with my dog, and out of nowhere, like, oh, it was horrible. The freaking bowl flew across, like legit, like someone had grabbed it and thrown it. And it flew right in front of me and my dog, and like landed in the middle of the floor, like really hard. And I started crying and screaming. And mind you, I'm like 19 years old at this point. I'm not 8 years old. I start crying and screaming because I'm really, really scared. And I didn't know what to do because it happened right in front of me, so I didn't know if I should like sit down or if I should go into the room. Like, I was so scared. So my dog ends up freaking leaving me. He goes to the front door and he's crying and like whining. I get scared. I run and take off to the room to my boyfriend. I start crying and telling him what happened. He's like, no, like, you're fine, like you're just hearing things, or maybe it got bumped by the wind. And he comes out and I show him, he's like, oh, because it's like, it's real far like in the living room, and he could tell by the way I was crying and like freaking out that it wasn't just like something that I made up, you know. And then my last and final story, which happened yesterday here in this house, but it doesn't really scare me that much because I'll get into it, but it didn't really scare me too badly. Well, this house is my stepdad's house, and his parents used to live here, and they both passed away, unfortunately. And I only got to meet his dad before he passed away. And basically what happened was yesterday my boyfriend was at work, and I was here at the house, and I was taking a shower, just minding my own business, and then I come out of the shower and I turn to go into my bedroom, and I need to like get clothes and everything to change. So I go into there and I have the door open, and out of nowhere I hear from like the front door, which is like right over here, I hear someone walking like footsteps, like heavy footsteps straight across the house. I was like, why is he home? Like, it's too early, like it's not lunchtime yet. And I was like, what? So I come out and I'm expecting to see my boyfriend. I'm like, babe, like looking around, and nobody's here. And I was like, oh no. I started getting scared. I was like, oh, who's in the house? So I ended up texting my aunt, and she lives close to us. So I texted her, I was like, hey, are you at the house? And she's like, no, I'm not here. She's like, I'm in town, like I'm getting gas. And I'm like, okay, so I'm by myself and I'm hearing sounds. And I tell her, and she's like, oh, well, if you want, I'll come over once I get back from town. And I was like, okay, yeah, that'll be fine. So I ended up texting my boyfriend. I was like, hey, I just heard this right now. And then I tell him what happened. He's like, you'll be fine. It's probably just his dad like saying hello. I was like, yeah, probably. So I ended up not being scared of it because like his dad was always really nice to me and everything, and it wasn't like bad energy or anything. But yeah. So those were my few ghost stories that I have. I have a few more, just I don't really remember them that well, so that's why I chose those 3. But if you guys are interested in any other story times or any other kind of video, just let me know and I'll be gladly then I'll be happy to make them for you. But yeah, so if you liked it, make sure to give this video a like, and please subscribe because I still really want to do videos. And yeah, so thank you for watching, and I hope you guys have a good day. Bye!